Not here, but I have the recorder on.
All right, you have anybody else? You have anybody else virtually?
Anyone else?
All right, everybody good? Right. Call the meeting to order and ask if you join us in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on our first meeting of the new year. We wish everyone a happy, healthy, and safe 2023. Tonight, we actually have two meetings rolled into one. Initially will be our annual organizational meeting as mandated by the Pennsylvania Municipal Planning Code. And then we'll commence with our regular meeting. The organizational part does not take very long, normally anyway. Just a couple comments. Face mask and hand sanitizer and not agendas are available on the table in the back of the room there. If you wish to avail yourself of those. Meeting is being video recorded. It'll be accessible through the township website, as will written minutes once they are approved by the board. There'll be two opportunities for public comment, either virtually or in person. When you do, we ask you step up to the microphone and speak directly and clearly and strongly into it so you can be heard, especially virtually. Township manager is monitoring the virtual portion of the meeting.
Hey,
And
Todd, Wendy is saying she can't join the meeting. It's an invalid meeting ID.
Yeah, I don't have my cell, so she's probably trying to text me now.
Well, but she's texting me now.
Okay. You can continue on with the
We'll let
meeting.
you-
What I'll do is
we'll let you work.
I'll email her.
We'll let you work on that while we do self-introduction to
Yeah.
the board members.
Dave Rose.
Jeff Rogers.
Art Rutledge,
Bob Brown.
Jeff Reynolds.
and of course, our township manager, Todd Ziegler, to my left. In a moment, we'll have Wendy Brown virtually. She's the recording secretary. And we have excused our solicitor, Tim Buck, for this evening. With that, we will go back to our agenda and we will begin with the annual organizational meeting. And that requires, first of all, that, I do need to announce that we had an executive session immediately preceding this meeting, and that was to discuss items relating to the sale of this building. Most of you probably know it's up for sale. With that, the first item in reorganization is we elect a temporary chair who serves only to oversee the election of a permanent chair.
I'll nominate Art Rutledge.
Second.
Anyone else be nominated? Is there a motion to close nominations?
Motion. Second.
A motion and a second to close nominations where I would be elected as the temporary chair. All in favor?
Aye.
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 5 votes to the affirmative. So as temporary chair, the next thing to do is to elect a permanent chair.
I'll nominate Art Rutledge.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for my nomination, or are there others? Motion to close nominations.
So moved.
Second.
All right. We can, all in favor that would establish me as the chair for the next year?
Aye.
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 5 votes to the affirmative. Next is to elect a vice chair.
I'll nominate Jeff Reynolds as vice.
Second.
Any other nominations? I'll motion that we close nominations.
Second.
All in favor of that? Well, let's just take all in favor of electing Jeff Reynolds as our vice chair. Say
Aye.
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 5 votes to the affirmative. Jeff is reelected as well.
Excuse me, can you just let Wendy know I emailed her the link to her personal and work email, please? Thanks. And I'll remember myself for next week.
While you do that, we have some appointments to make. One would be the recording secretary. We have A motion to nominate her again as recording secretary.
I'll nominate Wendy Brown to be recording secretary. Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments, other nominations? We shall vote on Wendy.
Aye.
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 We did that before she was on there, so she can't object. So, so that was well thought out, Todd.
She has now joined us.
All right. We have 5 resolutions, but for those of you out there, they'll be pretty quick. We have resolution number 2022-01, which is the setting of wages and benefits for 2020.
The only change on that,
So
Art pointed out, is the mileage is actually 65.5 set by the IRS.
right. So we would be looking at that resolution with that amendment. Or that change to change the little mileage rate to 65.5, which is the new IRS rate. Do we have a motion that we would on resolution 2023-01?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions? If not, we shall go ahead and vote.
Aye.
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 5 votes to the affirmative. Resolution 2023-01 is approved, and that is for the setting of wages and certain benefits for the year 2023. For those out there, these aren't quick decisions. We've had the chance to look at these and had executive sessions earlier the end of last year to review a lot of this. Resolution 2023-02 is a resolution appointing qualified persons or firms to represent the township. So we're out there. This is like our solicitor, code enforcement officers, and other officials that would represent us. We have a questions, comments, or a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2023-02.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 02. Questions on the motion? We shall vote.
Aye.
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 5 votes to the affirmative. Resolution 2023-02, appointing various persons and firms to represent the township. Resolution 2023-03. This is a resolution what would be appointing individuals to represent the township on boards, commissions, committees, and outside agencies for the year 2023.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-03.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve it. Todd, I assume that everyone is willing to serve that
Yeah.
we're appointing, but that's been verified.
Yep.
In that case, we shall vote.
Aye.
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 Resolution 2023-03, which appoints individuals to represent the township on boards, commissions, committees, and outside agencies, is approved. Resolution 22-04, designation of financial institutions, is in front of you. Questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-04.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution 04, which designates our financial institutions for the year.
Todd, how's our interest rate with those financial institutions?
Well, most of ours, we don't have anything with Pliget right now. We haven't had for quite a while because there was a time when Pliget, which is the Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust, there was a time where they were far better than banks. So we keep them kind of there as an authorized
case.
investor, but banks have been doing far much better than Pliget has for quite a few years.
All right.
I don't know what the current rate is at CNN, but I know our interest is up significantly.
With
from
the
what it
funds that
has
we have
been.
available.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Other questions? We should vote.
Aye.
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 5 votes to the affirmative. Resolution 2023-04, naming financial institutions, is approved. And we have resolution number 2022-05, setting of various fees for 20, and that should say 23. All those should have said 23. I think I said.
Correct.
I
There's
think I
definitely-
said 23.
There's
but-
definitely do all say 2022 on the agenda.
But they all are.
What happened with last year's agenda?
I
That
think
pace failed you.
this is a large document. I think there were only a couple changes and they had to do with increased fees if people were late
Correct.
in
Yeah.
certain filings and things.
Like if people did not get a building permit and the not Bill, but we were talking about that earlier today with another developer in the township. But the fees are doubled if they get a violation notice and they have, yeah. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-05.
Second,
Second.
I have a motion and a second
might have already passed with 2 seconds.
to approve 2023-05, which sets fees. Questions before we vote? We shall vote.
Aye.
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 5 votes to the affirmative. Resolution 2023-05, set fees is approved. And that does bring us to the end of our organizational meeting. We can now proceed as we would with the normal monthly meeting with approval of the minutes from our December meeting.
Make motion to approve December meeting minutes.
Second.
Have a motion to a second. Are there any questions or comments? If not, we will vote.
Aye.
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 5 votes to the affirmative. The minutes are approved. We'll move on to approval of the treasurer's report. By the way, Dave, interest was $3,307. So even though our base kind of keeps going down as we pay toward the buildings, the interest rates still are managing to maintain actually grow a little bit.
One bright spot from inflation.
Depends on which side of it you're on.
Yeah.
Very
I'll
true.
make a motion to approve the treasurer's report for
Second.
December 2022.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. I don't have any questions to approve the treasurer's report. Last chance for questions. We shall vote.
aye.
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 5 votes to the affirmative. The treasurer's report is reviewed. And not many people here, but this is an opportunity for public comment. Anyone with us virtually?
Only Wendy.
Okay.
Does Wendy have a public
And
comment?
I didn't mean only in a negative way.
How are you hearing this, Wendy?
Thank you for reappointing me. I logged in at the very end of that. Thank you.
Thank you for accepting. Can you hear us well this?
Yes,
tonight?
I can hear you well tonight.
Can you hear Todd?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Having no public comment at this time, we will move on to ordinances and resolutions. The first is 2023-03, this intergovernment agreement. Did we decide?
Yeah, I'm going to ask the board to
Yeah.
table this until the February meeting. And the only reason being is when the board authorizes to be advertised last month, New Freedom Borough was going to discuss it at their meeting and advertise it for adoption at their meeting here in January as well. They had a very long meeting. I think it went 5.5 hours.
Goodness, what were they
Um,
discussing?
And they adjourned at 11:30 and they tabled discussion on this. So I would recommend to the board that we table this until February just to make sure they don't have any additional changes or anything to the agreement.
Consensus good enough?
Yeah, that's fine.
Everybody okay?
Yeah,
You have that consensus?
we were trying to expedite it, but if they're dragging their feet, there's
Yeah,
not much
so-
we can do.
It's not really setting us back, I don't think, in any way, so.
No,
We're okay. The next one is the proposed zoning amendment for an active adult community.
yes, we have some folks here to
Yep.
address that.
They might, you would like to address this first?
Sure.
I'll try, I'll be quick. Charlie Courtney with McNeese Wallace and Eric. With me is John Henke with Tevitt Holdings and Elliot Shibley with Integrated Consulting. He's the project engineer. So they own land at the Smith Tract at the corner of East Tolna Road and Mount Airy Road. The land zone suburban residential district. They're proposing an active adult development. The land development plan's been submitted. We're kind of early in the review process. So we're here this evening. There are specific standards in your zoning ordinance for active adult developments. It's 55 plus. And so we're here this evening to request that the board schedule a hearing and ultimately enact a zoning amendment concerning standards for active adult development. So the first standard is density. The second standard is form of ownership. The zoning ordinance, when it defines active adult development, it references the Pennsylvania Uniform Condominium Act. But typically in Pennsylvania, residential isn't done as a condominium because of the banks have financing issues with condominium form of development. Most developments that you see, or virtually all developments that you see today, residential, are under the Uniform Planned Community Act. It's the same concept. It's just in one, the HOA owns all of the common elements, and in the other, there's an association that manages them, but the common elements, stormwater, streets, all those things are owned by all of the condominium unit owners. They each have an undivided interest. It's just a little bit different legal construct. So we'd be updating the definition to also incorporate Planned Community Act units. And then the third element is parking space size. So we've submitted an amendment. We actually presented it to your planning commission last month. They recommended adoption. So we're here tonight to ask that you schedule a hearing on that amendment. I can walk through the site plan if you want, or if we can do that at another date. And I can walk through the zoning amendment this night, but you're just really scheduling a hearing. So I'd be happy to do that if you'd like to see that.
How about if maybe we can do that just a point where we might have some comments or questions?
That'd be perfect.
First, I think it is something I think we need in the area. Probably have a rather desperate need for it, because I know we have a lot of areas where the population is aging.
Yep.
They'd like to stay in the township. But there's not really anything that kind of fits for them. So they wind up having to leave the township. Yep. And go somewhere else. But just a couple things that would make at least me feel more comfortable. Sure. With how we're looking at this. If we look at the first page
Of the zoning amendment?
of the
Okay.
amendment,
Yep.
the last paragraph, I'd rather see us delete that, because I have some disagreement with whether or not it really lessens demands on infrastructure, utilities, and services. I live in a community right up the hill, the Villas, that was targeted as age restricted. And I can tell you it doesn't lessen some of these, but I don't think that makes any difference. It's a whereas, so I don't think it makes any.
Yeah, so that language is already in your ordinance. So we're not, just so everybody's clear, what we did was in section 3. That's
So that
all of the standards that exist under your ordinance. What is new
so
is either what's stricken or what's
so
underlined.
this is actually verbatim in our.
Correct.
I didn't have time to look at it to see that, so. Okay, well, I guess if it's.
Well, that's one of those things we'll take a look at our ordinance, because we're working through some other amendments.
Yeah. So we may wind up with some change.
Yeah, I know we talked a little bit, we said about maybe that last whereas, ending it at school district. And just striking and public infrastructure, because certainly, active adult's not gonna have that.
Yes, you did. Yeah,
Sure.
that's right. We talked about ending. it
Instead of
there.
the entire whereas, would you be okay with just period after school district? And then I make a note here that we'll look at our.
We'll look at
ordinance.
that as we look at the ordinances that we're going through right now. Okay.
School system, right?
Yep.
Okay, and then, because I can update this draft, Todd. and
Oh,
send it to
okay.
you- Send it to you
That'd
tomorrow.
be- That would be perfect. Yep.
So maybe what I'll just quickly walk through this amendment. So section 1 is your definition of active adult development. So that's the 55 plus. You'll see that we added a language referencing the Pennsylvania Uniform
Right. Not, and I
Condominium Act and Planned
understand
Community.
that. Yeah.
Um,
Makes sense.
Yep. And then section 2 is the density. Under this suburban residential district, we've got 2 forms of housing that we're proposing. One is single family detached and one is duplex. So under the current ordinance, the density limitation is 4.5 units to the acre for single family detached, and the duplex is 3 units to the acre. With active adult developments, you'll typically see a little bit of a density bump. You know, a lot of times it's justified for some of the things that you just mentioned, right? Whether there's less impacts to certain things for sure, right? There's less impacts to schools because you're 55 plus. Typically, you don't have kids. There's less impact typically from a traffic generation standpoint, and that's recognized in all the ITE trip generation data. So what we're proposing, the plan that we have is showing a density of 5.97 units to the acre. So that's 6.
Right.
So we're proposing to have a little bit of a density enhancement, and that's calculated, by the way the township's ordinance requires it to be calculated, where you net out
Right.
not just existing easements, but proposed easements and so forth.
Right.
So, so that's section 2. Section 3, as we were talking about, these are the existing standards for active adult development. What's underlined is new, what's stricken is new. You'll see all of the changes on the second page, or the third page rather, all relate to this Uniform Planned Community Act and condominiums.
Right.
And then the only change to those standards that isn't related to condominium versus planned community is 14, which is parking space size. We're proposing a parking space size of 9 by 18, which is a typical parking space size. And we're not building a shopping center here. We have to worry about people, getting out of their car and banging doors, right? These are going to be parking spaces that are largely for the on-site amenities, pickleball court, the mailboxes, a pavilion, right, and an amphitheater. So just that helps to reduce overall impervious coverage. So we're not having bigger spaces that really aren't necessary.
If you back up to 4.
Yep.
Where you talk about the cart width of 24 feet. Does that anticipate that there's no on-street parking, or on-street parking only on one side, or that's 4 streets
On
and
page
sidewalk
3.
A?
No parking within that 24-foot cart.
And we're looking at these, by the way, not only because of your development, but once we do it, it applies anywhere. So we just want to, because, experience that I've seen before is you have a narrow street and then you let people park on it, and first time that the fire department takes a look at it, they said, guys, that won't work.
Yeah, I mean, at 24 feet.
There's no, you can't park, you can't park and functionally move on a 24-foot.
Right.
So no, that will be.
Is
And then
that-
one thing we question is, and I don't know if that's the appropriate place to put it, but just adding something to the effect that the minimum cartway width of 24 with parking permitted only on one side.
Or they're
or
saying
something,
no,
but-
no
saying there is no
parking.
parking.
Yeah. But again, I'm thinking of other communities.
Right.
Because you could have a community, and I'm going to use your neighborhood. You have a very active HOA, and they restrict the parking to one side for garbage trucks, emergency vehicles, or whatever. I've seen HOAs where they're inactive. And my thoughts are, if you get into a situation where people are parking on both sides haphazardly, you could have a situation where you're not going to get an emergency vehicle through. And I think at minimum, we should add some kind of language that, with the limitation that no more parking, that parking, no more than parking on one side, or, I'm not.
Yeah, in
quite
any
sure how to word that, but-
Community.
Right.
They're private, so they can limit it more, but at least you wouldn't have somebody parking on both sides. That was
And
just our
if
thought.
the community doesn't want any parking, that's fine.
I mean, that's even
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
You see, you're looking at your ordinances in the general sense.
Mm-hmm.
Just, from my experience, I would require a minimum of 28 foot parkway width before you allow parking on one side.
That's what I had in mind too.
And a lot of ordinances are like that, 28 foot width, parkway width, to allow one side parking only.
But we would be able to do variance in the situation like this if they wanted to do 24 with no parking.
Well, if it's,
Well,
depending
Like
how,
our ordinance
depending
would have
how
to be
it's,
written.
depending how it's worded, if it's worded like it is, and then it might be better just to leave it as it is, and then we address this.
We're
This-
providing our required off-street parking outside of the parkway.
Sure.
Right.
yeah.
But
yeah,
I'm just- if we're making the adjustments though, in a
It's
global
somebody
sense,
else's.
for lack of a better term. That way, if we are allowing variances for a unique situation like yours, needing the 24 foot with no parking. That way we can still accommodate others.
Yeah, waivers.
without
Yeah,
having
so,
to make
right.
changes again.
So the existing language under the current standard is minimum cartway of 24 feet. Right, so that's existing today. We'll meet that and we won't have any parking, right? Because you really can't. So I see two options. I see one is we let it go at that and whatever adjustments get made later, they can get made later. Or we just clarify right now all three scenarios, which is 24 feet if you have no parking on either side, 28 feet if you have parking on one side, and 32 feet if you have parking on both sides.
That would also be all encompassing.
My only concern is,
Right.
my only concern is, I think we should address that in a
Later.
separate section.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like in a separate ordinance?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
That's my thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good, just again for clarification on 8. You talk about the development may include perimeter commercial uses intended to serve the inhabitants. And I think, Todd, you and I talked, that probably works, but it would have to be is it going to be restricted to people that live there?
That's
Well,
in the existing.
yeah.
ordinances.
Yeah.
But now's the
That's not-
time to correct it if that's not what we want.
So what I would say for that is, typically for these developments, we did, Lower Paxton Township in Dauphin County. They had the same issue, like we have older people who can't stay in the community. And so we want to provide different housing types that they can age in place. And so part of the amendments that they went through modified the types of commercial uses that you can have. But those commercial uses, they wouldn't be there if they were just justified by the project, because no one would invest in those commercial uses. So if you're going to do commercial uses, it's really got to be something that.
Well, but that's the thing. It was our concern was we don't want to have a residential community or neighborhood become a commercial strip.
What's the
Because that's-
zoning allow?
Suburban residential, it's very little,
Doesn't allow much, does it?
not commercialized. Let me see if I can get back up here. And I think it just kind of flies in the face of what the intent of that section is. Now, my thoughts were, when I read that it says intended, my thoughts were get rid of intended. It should be include perimeter commercial uses to serve the inhabitants. And again, not your project necessarily, but I'm thinking of maybe another project that came to my mind is like if it was a laundromat or something to serve that community.
Right,
Yeah.
so one way to revise that would be, because it really doesn't matter to us. I mean, it's more of a planning issue for the township, but perimeter commercial uses that serve only the inhabitants, is that,
I think we'd be okay if we just struck out intended.
okay, just say commercial
Intended
uses
to
that,
serve the inhabitants of the active adult community.
And we understand that for 50 homes, that's not gonna,
right?
but again, we're not just looking at your,
Yeah, nope, I get it. I
right,
get it.
okay.
Can we back up to page 2 quickly?
Yep.
Just while we're cleaning things up in this section.
Yep.
Under section 3. Again, while we're at it, we might as well strike that out. Third line up from the bottom after public school system, put a period
Yeah, I got
and then
that.
strike the rest of it. You got that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the two changes that I have that we've discussed is that change, that period after school system. And on page 3, number 8, strike intended to and replace it with the word that.
Yep. And there's that third one in the whereas in the front page. The
That was
last
the one you were talking
whereas,
about with the school. You mentioned something about the school on page 2, Todd. Where was that?
yeah. Did you get the whereas
Well, I got the,
on the very bottom?
That was where we were putting.
That's where we
school.
started. Yeah,
But you said something about school on page 2.
yeah. I know, but he only mentioned 2 and
yeah,
it should be 3 so far.
Right, right here.
Yep, but go back to the whereas.
Uh,
That's where we had started.
First page.
On the first page.
oh, okay, okay, the recitals.
Yeah, yeah, on the bottom
I got it.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, just so it's
Okay.
consistent.
Yep.
And just to give you an
Yeah.
example or two, we have a large contingency of over 55s, probably more like over 65s, that play bocce ball at one of the parks every, and they're asking for some better facility like for that. So they, and we have some, and you're gonna have one in there, which I commend you for, I think, a walking trail. But we have great trails at a couple parks and they're widely used by elderly adults. And they're the ones who, some of them just want to go sit and talk to people, but you'll give some of that, but I think they'll still generate some of
This
the
be
parks.
I
underlined?
didn't start using.
Since this is new, anything you're adding is underlined, correct? Or is that what you were doing?
Because we weren't reproducing anything else. That's what
Okay. All right, okay.
And did you get what you
Yeah,
wanted?
we got
Yep.
it squared away. Yep.
Is 11 on not allowed to have accessory buildings or pools? Is that
That's your line.
Yeah,
that's our
anything
language?
that's not underlined is yours.
As I questioned about whether that should say fences too, but that's something for us to look at. Because I know that they can really make a place look pretty bad when
Yeah.
everybody starts putting up a different fence in a
Yeah.
small area like that.
Multi-family.
Yep.
Three of that kind of density, they often.
Yeah, we don't allow them where I am. We're not as
Right,
dense
right.
as you're talking
They
about.
impede, stormwater flow, a lot of
Yeah.
cases, and maintenance and,
So we may look at that just in our general ordinance review, I think. And the only other one I had is what are you gonna have for number of parking spaces? What are your plans per unit in your,
Elliot? you
I know
wanna-
we say 3, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think ordinance requires 3.
plans, just or architecture plans, at this point would contain 2 parking spaces in the garage. I don't know if the ordinance counts those or.
Mhm.
2 in the garage, 2 on the parking pad, and then how many? There are. I think 30. At least 30, 30 is one. Yeah.
oh, there's more than that, yeah.
It's roughly 4 per unit.
So they are garages then,
Yes.
right? But they can get 2 on the parking pads.
And 2 on the parking pad.
Because people don't use their garage to park cars in. right? Bill and I have had, and Todd, we've had a lot of discussions about parking spaces, but I can tell you where I am. People do not use the garages, and there are a number of people over, and that it's again not over 55. It was kind of targeted at, but elderly people that have as many as 5 cars and 2 people that live there. But
Will all the garages be 2-car garages?
That's our plan, our architectural plan at this point.
and I actually tried to count as best I could.
There's
It
55.
looked like 53 I count. I
Okay,
wasn't,
all right.
but that was, there's the size of the plan I was looking
Well,
at.
I was too. I had to get my phone out.
Right. Okay,
I didn't bring a large. uh,
I think, and part of that
I
is
do.
to make sure it's nice and clean when it goes to the York County as well. Because
Yeah.
that would be our next step.
Yeah, we'll update it tomorrow morning and send it to Todd.
Okay.
So if the board's comfortable, what the motion should probably
Advertise.
be to authorize to go to York County Planning Commission, which they would not hear until they would make a recommendation on February 21st by my calculations. And then you could, if you want to, you could include in that authorization for us to prepare an ordinance, advertising, I should say, and the public hearing
Are you all
for March
comfortable
1st.
with what we've
Yeah,
done? Are you
100%. Yep.
You're comfortable with that? Okay. I would go ahead and make a motion that we would proceed to forward this on to York County Planning Commission, as well as prepare a document for advertising in accordance with the items we've discussed some changes to here.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Questions?
You said York County Planning would hear it when?
They'll review it February 21st.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to have it into them 30 days prior to their meeting, so we will not make their January.
Okay.
meeting.
Any other questions? Okay, so we would be voting on both
Sending it and then
sending it
advertising it for
and
March.
advertising.
Were you calling for a vote?
Yes,
Aye.
Aye.
thank you. Aye.
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 5 votes to the affirmative, so we will proceed as directed.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. I think it'll be a nice addition to the township.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it's, we're planning an upscale architecture with that space and, I'm very happy with the plan and everything.
What will be the value, sale price, home range?
We don't know yet, my target, and that depends on largely on what the economy does, but, my target was, trying to do that. Upscale, the $400,000 range, now that'll ultimately depend on the economy. And, we'll do some more market research and make sure there's enough demand in that price. Or it doesn't get you much these days.
No, it doesn't, but to someone who is elderly, it starts to seem like a lot when
Yes,
it's up there.
absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. Yeah, even if you're moving down from something.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
and, yeah.
What roughly are the square footages?
Well, those footprints are, we're gonna be in the 28. It's a big footprint.
All single story?
We'll probably do lofts and guest, lofts, guest bedrooms up on the second level too.
On all of them, or?
Yeah, or make them optional, that can vary the price range too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people I know that are looking, they don't want stairs.
Yeah, of course, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't like stairs.
They would all have first floor living.
Absolutely, yeah, primarily first floor living, and then my sister and brother-in-law just moved into a place over in New Jersey that Diva Horton built. Beautiful, big community, 500 units, I think, in there, but lots of walking trails, lots of, just tons of walking trails. Now they have a huge clubhouse, and swimming pools, and indoor and outdoor swimming pools, but the architectural design is all first floor living, some with additional second floor space, so you have your guest bedrooms, your loft, people are 60, 70, my father was walking stairs in his mid-80s. And did it for health reasons and liked the stairs, but so you have some, not your essential necessary living beyond the first level, but some, some auxiliary things that offer on the second level.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate your information. All right, so next we are looking at subdivision and land development powers in Albany. I think we gave a 1 month extension.
Two or three. It was October.
It
We
was
just did
3,
one on
yeah.
this one because it was sewer related, right?
No, I
All
think
right.
we gave it 3
Yeah,
on
we
this one.
Oh,
Yeah, it was three. The excerpt's from October.
Okay, so it's up this month.
Correct. Where are we with
Now
that?
that you have all the answers for sewer, Phil?
I had, of course, had an email from folks this evening, or yesterday maybe, and I told them we were still working on the sewer. I mean, the plan is basically done.
Right,
Sewer issue, and again, we actually had a letter from New Freedom Borough at one time agreeing to let sewer be there, but Shrewsbury Borough wouldn't let go through the line, so I told them that I would ask for one more time for extension, to see if we make any progress with the borough and sewer, if not.
to me, I think that's reasonable.
How long do you want, Bill?
When we do 3 months again, because in another month. we're
Yeah.
not gonna do anything.
Yeah,
Fine.
I agree. A month's not
We're
gonna,
not gonna do anything, so in 3 months, we know whether we're spending our.
I think
So
that's,
we'll push to April.
I think that's reasonable.
And after that, I think they're gonna want to give up because it's been too stressful. And it is, I mean, I run into them and, you know, I'm doing everything I can and they just, you know, they're being patient. But then we'll pay for their son in college. They may be paying for their grandsons.
yeah,
This keeps going away back.
Do you have a date on that?
April 5th through April 5th.
All right, make a motion to extend Powers Almany through the April 5th board meeting.
Second,
Have a motion and a second to extend Powers Almany till April the 5th. Further questions? A vote.
Aye.
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 aye,
5 votes to the affirmative. We'll have extended that for another 3 months to the 5th of April. Hopefully something happens. All right, Steel Farm Land, that's another reapproval, Todd?
It is, and I would ask that you only do this one for 1 month because Steel Farm, this is the 3rd plan that they've had
Mm.
before us. We're really just waiting on some bonding and a couple other minor things. We had a staff meeting a month ago. And at that point in time, it was a whole new user looking at it and we were told it's nothing. We haven't received anything formally, but that whole project would be abandoning. And I don't think it makes sense for this plan to continue to lay month after month after month.
Yeah.
After being amended for the 3rd time. You know, so.
And I'll make a motion to extend the Steel Farm Land
through
development
February
plan to February
1st.
of this year.
Second.
Motion and second. Did you have a comment, Phil?
I had a question, actually, there's been a couple of property owners in there that have asked me about this project, I had been going around knocking on doors of the other property owners to try to get signatures for a problem I had.
Yeah.
And they had some concern about who was moving in there, the mulching organization.
They came to a staff, there was a mulch, they sell mulch or what have you. They came to a staff review meeting, it was last month, actually. It was the pre-app consultation. Nothing's been submitted and we haven't heard another word from them since. Because one of the things they were looking at was possibly manufacturing mulch, and we told them that that's not a permitted use in that particular zone.
Creative
But
engineering and the people that have, the other building, when you first come in, actually were planning, contacted me and wanted me
Yeah.
to get involved in planning.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't do that, but I can let you know what's going
Yeah.
on.
I mean, they can check it with us periodically, but as of now, we have not heard anything since a month ago.
They were concerned about noise from the machine and some other issues. So I'll let them know. what's
Well,
going on.
they talked that they would mainly be trucking in material and hauling it out, but they talked a little bit, like I said, manufacturing, but we told them at the pre-app consultation meeting that that's not a permitted use. And I think that may have kind of,
And we're voting on just extending the plan. as it
Correct,
exists.
yeah.
Right,
Just
I know.
Because it was on the agenda.
Sure.
There, I just
No,
wanted to get back to the other
Yeah.
property owners, let them know what I know.
no, yeah, I wouldn't see us allowing the manufacturing. All right, well, we have this on the table so we can vote.
Aye.
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 Five votes to the affirmative, we give it another month, but, now we appreciate the question and, yeah, I don't, well, it's not permitted, so that makes it pretty simple, at least that be part of it. We have the manager's report. Todd, anything you'd particularly like to emphasize or comment?
Main thing is just, if you look at my calendar, December 13th, that Savvy Citizen
Yes.
webinar. I actually had to leave the office early that day, but Wendy did attend it. That's a company that does the same that we have with Text My Gov, where you do out the text blast or whatever. I thought, because it's a pretty popular app, I thought they might be a little less expensive, but they're not. They're actually more expensive than what we use now. So,
So
but-
we're still looking.
yes.
Okay. Any,
Other than that, I don't have anything other than what's on your report.
any questions for Todd from anybody? No solicitors report. We have the zoning officer codes enforcement report in front of you. Any questions or comments there? Again, it's pretty detailed and what's going on and what's happening and
And the only thing, if I could, I just want to explain to the board, because I don't think everyone's fully aware. Down at 144 Manchester Street, which is property owned by Joe Messina. And that's Glenrock. You've seen in the code enforcement report where we filed numerous citations and so forth, and we have a hearing coming up, but they did go before the zoning, or I'm sorry, the planning commission in December, and we're seeking a variance to intrude into the critical environmental area. If you see here, the wall's already been constructed. We issued a stop work order. I gave you a copy of the letter that we mailed out, giving Messina's a time frame in which to remove the wall and restore it back to the originally approved plan. This plan, it was a subdivision to create two lots. The one where most of us know the Smith's Country Kitchen building was, with the apartments up around the back. And then there's that empty pad, I guess would be to the west. So we did that. Part of that plan was this area was a very steep slope. It was supposed to remain steep with a wall not to exceed 4 feet in height here. Of course, it's not near as steep, and that's because this now measures 14 feet instead of 4. And then let me get the other wall here. This wall here that you see here is the wall that was not on the approved plan from 2015. This had a steeper slope. Again, it was critical environmental area and was not to be disturbed. So that's what the violation's for. So I just wanted to give you a little background. I know it's been on your codes report, but now that we've sent out a letter, and I kind of sidetracked myself there. Did go to Planning Commission. They were seeking a variance for this wall. Planning Commission recommended to the zoning hearing board that the variance not be approved, mainly on the basis that it's been self-created. And then I don't know, it was only a couple days later, we got an email that they were withdrawing their application, so it never even went to the zoning hearing board.
Have
Just
we
for-
been in contact with them beyond the letter?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah, I've had numerous conversations with their attorney.
and where are they on this?
Well, what they wanted to do is they were trying to get a variance so that this could stay. All right. As I mentioned, Planning Commission recommended that it not be approved. Because for a variance, you have to prove a hardship.
Okay,
One of the criteria of a hardship is it can't be self-created. This case it was. Staff being Keith and I, as zoning officer, assistant zoning officer, we took the position that it should not be approved. Because if you want a variance and you want to build the wall, the proper step is you come and get the plan approved first. You don't build the wall and then come and say, hey, can I do this? So the letter we sent, which I gave you a copy of there at your seat tonight, is a letter that says this wall has to be removed and this area has to be restored as a critical environmental area to meet the approved plan of 2015. And the reason being is for this wall to remain and for this slope to remain requires a variance by the zoning hearing board. Zoning officer doesn't have the authority to grant that, and neither does the board of supervisors. That can only be granted by the zoning hearing board. So if
Now,
they want to go
has
back to
the-
the zoning hearing
Has the
board,
zoning hearing board heard it?
no, because they withdrew their application
Okay.
before it went to the zoning hearing board.
Phil, do you have some information about this?
Yeah, I haven't been doing much work with June for the last few years, but he called me, I guess it was before Christmas. And I spoke to Stacy today and, just, I offered that I would get involved and try to help resolve the issue. I think it'd be a real bad thing to take the law out of there. I know what he did was wrong. He had an overzealous contractor out of Maryland. He didn't, act the way he should. He had a different engineer than I've ever worked with Joe on. I think over the years we worked with Holly and a couple other engineers, but they got involved with John, is the only thing in mind. I don't know anything more than that. And between all that and the fact that Joe is getting frustrated with it not moving, I think some really, really bad decisions were made. And I think that, I agree 100% with what Todd's saying. Things were done wrong, but I think if there's an opportunity to try to deal with the zoning issue and try to resolve the permitting, I suggested that part of that would also have some core testing and some structural testing to confirm that the wall meets all the requirements. If there's just an opportunity for that, and he understands that what he's done is wrong, and there are going to be fines, and there should be fines because there were mistakes made and things that weren't done. Maybe we can just take a look at trying to resolve some of those issues.
But I don't call them mistakes.
Well,
I don't call them
mistakes
mistakes.
in judgment, I would say.
Well, this photo that you see here, this wall was built out to about this point, the uniform height. This is the point in which there was a stop work order issued. Okay, because not only were they not meeting the approved plan, when you have a wall exceeds 4 feet in height, you have to have engineered sealed plans under the Pennsylvania Uniform Construction Code.
And you said it's
They
a
didn't-
14-foot wall.
Well, the highest point over on this side, this is higher than 4 feet. I don't know what this height might be. Might be 6 or 8
Looks
feet.
about 6.
But nonetheless, we issued a stop work order at this point. Had Mr. Messina stopped, this could have probably had a better chance of being resolved because the footers are all exposed, the wall's exposed, the backfill's exposed. But I talked to him on the day that the stop work order was issued. He called me. And I'm not going to pull any punches. He asked me to look the other way, and I said, I'm not. And he proceeded to finish the wall.
And I agree that when I meant mistakes in judgment.
Okay, all right, yeah.
And the
So,
other thing was that we have extremely overzealous Maryland contractor who is notorious for just doing what he wants to do. And I'm not saying that, I acknowledge it was wrong, 100%. It was a sealed plan, from what I understand. I talked to Stacy today, and the engineering plan was sealed, but there was never any inspection. So they had.
well, that's new because here, and I have some emails because when Stacy initially called me, Stacy McNeil, which is Messina's attorney, Keith and I met with them. Stacy, Joe's son Frank, and Josh George, who's an engineer. And they said they were going to talk to an engineer to see if they could get a stamp sealed plans. I don't know if they ever found one willing to do it.
No, that wasn't the problem. I had a real good, Josh was on the call today, and so was Stacy. the original plan for the design was sealed by someone at that company.
Okay.
What they didn't have was a letter confirming that the inspection met the requirements.
Yeah, there were no
Right,
inspections.
so that
Yeah.
they don't have a signed engineering report saying it was constructed properly. They do have a signed engineering report saying it was designed to be constructed properly. So they can give you that from what they told me today.
And they may be able to do that, but the other problem is the official building code official who has to sign off on this under the Pennsylvania UCC. That person's got to feel comfortable signing off on it.
No, and
You know, and
suspect to
that's-
them it's not gonna be good enough just to get an engineer. I thought that.
Yeah,
the
so
right way to do it was do borings, compaction testing,
Mhm.
and have all that done with the
But-
inspector and pay all those faults.
But here's the thing, the bottom line is that wall is built back into the CEA and the CEA was changed on an
What-
approved plan. And Keith nor I have the legal
I
authority.
understand.
That's why I'm saying for anything to be worked out, they have to go talk to the zoning hearing
And
board.
I think that's where, based on the fact that they do have, and this is again, I'm sure I heard what I heard today, that they do have a signed engineering design plan.
Okay,
They were looking. for
they did
someone-
not make us,
They were looking for someone to do a sign, and they found someone to give them that, which would be very expensive. And it's certification that is built to those specs. So they can probably get both of those, but I think it makes more sense to have the second one tied into the actual inspections. Do boring, do compaction, do some other tests, but then also resolve the zoning issue. And if they could just, somehow or other have an agreement that instead of just backfilling the wall or knocking the wall down or whatever, that because of, I've offered to get involved, I've offered to help pull this all
Mhm.
together. And I think we could do that, and there's no way in the world that I think that, I'm trying to propose that there should be a waiver on fines or anything like that. That's not in my realm. I'm not gonna get involved in anything. There were things done that should have been done, but I think it'd be a shame just to tear the wall down. If we can go ahead and get it approved and meet the consensus.
Chad, what makes it critical environmental in that area?
steep slope over
slopes.
25%.
You had a picture a little bit further down, which showed us a grade. Is that what it originally was?
No,
it
this
it
was
more of
all-
a straight shot.
Yeah,
I'm sure they.
Maybe
probably
not.
Have some photographs of that.
Yeah.
Okay, that on the right side is what that was.
yeah, this is behind the apartments. This is closer to Glenrock Borough.
Right.
When you go this way,
Well, I'm just,
we're look-
I'm looking at, it, but
they
when-
came
when
in
they-
and
when they built
regraded
the-
this entire slope before they started the wall.
well, it looks like they moved some of the dirt back, which now it's at a much lesser slope,
Right. Right.
which
And it was a
could
steeper
potentially be
embankment before.
beneficial
What's beneficial?
to not have it as such a steep slope.
But the thing is, when the plan was approved, the existing conditions put it in the critical environmental area.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's a plan that was approved by the Board of Supervisors in 2015. And there are notes on the plan that delineates that critical environmental area. And there's notes on the plan that actually state they were supposed to post signs, no
it was.
disturbance beyond this point.
Okay,
And it's all been disturbed.
okay.
Yeah.
So their option, still they'd have to go to the zoning hearing board.
Yeah, because again,
Right.
even if we think this is wonderful and this is good, and it's not as steep a slope, that might be okay.
But
But
they still have to
They,
initiate.
it's the zoning hearing board's the only one that can approve that and grant that. Because it's a zoning requirement. It's not like the subdivision land development where the board can approve modifications and waivers.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it would be
So they
required.
have to
So-
make the best case they could to the.
Yeah,
zoning
they
hearing
have to go to the zoning hearing board. I mean, if the zoning hearing board approves it, that's fine, but I mean, it has to be approved by.
It has to be done for you and just.
Right.
happen. We might forget that, and what I. suggested it, but I'm willing to help try to do all those things. I'm not saying it's gonna be a slam dunk or anything like that. But if, instead of just having a deadline to knock the wall down, if they can have a little time to try to approach some of those things.
What's our deadline?
I get involved in it.
May 1st.
I think they have a good engineer now, which they didn't have. I think that Stacy's on board, so I think there's a team that should have been on board a long time ago, but.
Yeah. They're trying to make up for lost time.
And as far as like, the changing that deadline and so forth, Keith and I made that decision based as a zoning officer and so forth. I mean, they need to come back if they want to extend it with the schedule and a
Yeah.
timetable and be able to justify it, not, so.
Well,
But I haven't heard back from Stacy.
I think we need to hear from the zoning hearing board before we make before we try to push any type of deadline.
Well, and that's the thing. If we see they're being proactive and, next month they're going before the zoning hearing board or whatever, and
Yeah.
it takes time for them to get a decision, to me, that's justification.
Mm.
But waiting until April to have a zoning hearing, to me,
Yeah,
that's,
that would be problematic.
yeah. So,
I call Stacy tomorrow and tell her I'll be directly involved and we started to do something as fast as we possibly could. And I'll have her put something together and send it in.
yeah, I mean, she probably doesn't have too much more to put together because she already had.
You want something-
Oh.
There's a timeline.
Yeah, I mean, if they want to go to the zoning hearing board or whatever, I mean, if she can put that together. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I'll get on tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? I guess, we were looking at, you have the maintenance report, and Todd, I think you had a little bit on the speed.
Yeah,
Uh,
here, I can get rid of that one. Share this for the folks at
Right
home.
up, right up the road.
Yeah, just
Bill.
quickly, and for whatever reason, I couldn't put my finger on this report, but I think this still gives you enough. This is Mount Airy Road at Covington, doing a speed study. The blocks that you see shaded are the blocks where the radar sign was activated, but it did not signal, it didn't flash, it didn't display anything.
So it made a 1 mile an hour.
So it's been pretty consistent with
Right.
every speed study that we've done, that whatever that average speed is, when the display goes off, it always goes up 1 mile an hour on average. It's been consistent like that with, I think, everyone that we've
I
done.
guess it just naturally
Oh,
back off the gas just a little bit.
yeah,
When it's
yeah.
flashing.
So the average speed of all vehicles was 24 miles over an 11-week period, 24 mile per hour. Posted 35. The 85th percentile is 33. So, if you average those two out, you might lower to 30. But nothing lower.
I wouldn't change it.
Do you have particular people you're
And once you
sharing?
get past there, you're going downhill anyway, so you're gonna pick
Well,
up.
it's pretty level where we have them.
No, but I mean, you're not gonna change the speed going down
Oh.
towards Windy Hill though.
No,
So, yeah, I think 35 is good.
and,
If you want to go slower, they're more than welcome to.
same pretty much holds true. If you're heading southbound, you're actually surprisingly going a little faster.
Oh, I'm sorry. We were going the
Yeah,
other way.
yeah, I'm sorry,
You're-
this is
you're-
northbound.
So you're going
yeah.
towards Walmart in the
Mhm,
first study.
Yeah.
That would be a lot flatter there. All right.
So again, but you can see 11-week average 29 and 34
Very
without
nice.
the display, it's 30 and 35. So again,
Yeah.
it's so. Granted, are there some speeders? Absolutely.
Sure.
But
They're gonna speed no matter what you put as a speed limit.
Yep.
that's the unfortunate thing. You can put it at 15 and they're still gonna go whatever that speed is.
So did we do this because we have some specific complaints?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you'll
We
share,
actually have 3 complaints in that general
so
area.
you'll share this
Yeah.
information with the people that were complaining.
So,
Okay,
all right.
all right.
Those were kind of like fixed in the ground. I thought maybe they were permanent, but no, they're.
No, yep, we'll
They,
move them
they
to
attached.
the
the
next
signs that
place,
are in the
yeah.
ground.
So you have the engineer's report, emergency report, management no report, and planning commission and zoning. Questions on either of those two? Anything you want to point out, Todd?
No, I don't have anything in particular.
All right, the committees, the sewer committee did meet on the 23rd, I believe. So you were going to set up
Yeah, I need to still set up a meeting with the Shrewsbury Borough Council President.
you and I.
And yes, for Art and myself representing the committee. And then we're going to ask to meet with the president of Shrewsbury Borough Council, Ted Nabotsky or something. And another council member, and if they want to invite Brian, their superintendent, that's fine, but just to try to get some further clarification on a statement that's recorded in their minutes from last month. That basically says when the upgrade is or improvements are made at the New Freedom plant, whatever EDUs that become available out of that, they plan to keep only for Shrewsbury Borough. And we want to have a conversation to try to understand that rationale, because you have the borough and you also have the sewer authority, Shrewsbury Borough Sewer Authority, who has also contributed to pay for those. So we're not understanding why they're not getting.
Readily available.
Yes,
to the town.
why they're not allocated EDU well. I mean,
Either
they're
town. It's technically
paying
Hobo.
to
It's
make
huge.
those EDUs available, but they're, the sewer authority. But the sewer authority is not reaping, lack of a better term, the benefit.
Mr. Powers asked that exact question, because he does pay the existing sewer.
Mhm.
And he said, well, how can that be? Well, we don't pay it. I said,
Yeah. So that's kind of conversation we want
Are
to
you
have.
still
We're going to try to
working?
set that up for this month.
Are you still working on your stuff?
And
Yeah.
With the-
I dragged the box out, moved it upstairs.
were we also reaching out to
Is that step one?
government agency in Harrisburg?
We thought we'd wait until
Until after that,
Yeah, see what
Okay.
kind of response we get.
one at
yeah.
a time.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, supervisors' comments, you have mine just written there. Does anybody else have comments they want to make? Anybody? Okay. We will go on to municipal complex status report. That's just informational on the after this round of disbursements, there's not a lot of. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, good night.
The
Not a
agenda's
lot of
online.
money left to pay
Sorry
out.
about that.
Because you'll take after this round of disbursements that we're gonna vote on. You guys aren't gonna have a lot of money left to spend, so they better be finishing up. Any questions on Todd's report there? That does reflect. Already removed from those totals are the disbursements that are being asked for
Tonight.
tonight.
Are we still looking at the middle of February?
Well, we're going to find out. We have a construction meeting tomorrow morning. We were told, what, a week and a half ago or so, that it was the part that was due to be delivered in December 20th, I think it was,
getting
19th,
pushed.
December 19th, got pushed back 2 months again, like February 23rd. And we had a couple emails back and forth, and then they indicated that they thought they might have a solution, a temporary solution. But then we're hearing that may not work, so we're expecting to get answers tomorrow morning. So I'll be able to text everyone tomorrow and let you know
And they,
where we're at.
it's gonna be roughly, is it 4 or 6 weeks after that? About 6 weeks.
At
after
least
that,
6 weeks, once
after that-
that's in.
Once it's in. For them to install it, and then they've got to bring the building up to temperature so that they can do all the
The
woodwork.
paneling work and,
Is there any way they
Inside.
can get up the temperature without this unit, or is that what they're looking?
well, they want a constant.
Gotta be
The
constant and
the
stable.
installer that's putting on these laminate
I know.
panels,
But is there any way they can run stuff with, because isn't it a gas heating system?
yes, but they only have temporary power. And I'm not an electrician, so I don't understand all
Yeah, I
this
know.
is the main switch panel that comes into the building is my understanding, so.
Which I just think they could somehow wire it up in a way just to run the heat to get it up to temperature.
Well, they were gonna be able to do something temporary, but they told us they couldn't come close to like the full power that was needed. But I guess we'll see what they say tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it's,
Maybe we'll have something better.
Because I just can't imagine they need that much electrical power to run the heating system.
Yeah,
You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Of course, I ain't
yeah,
up on all your 440, electrical stuff either. I'm far from it.
well,
certainly not.
gives us a question or two to ask tomorrow morning. You do have the latest status report there. And I guess, Todd, we have 3 change orders to address.
Yeah, the first change order, which is township change order number 28. That is it's a request from ECI for increase for material costs due to acoustic ceiling grid prices changing and so forth. Recommend that be denied, as we've done with other price increases. Understand, for ECI, it was an issue was out of their control because it had to do with the duct work and so forth.
Which they
But
also,
when it comes
created.
to price increases, it's out of our control as well.
Do you want to handle this one first?
Yeah, I would, and the other two, I would recommend approval because they are both. Let me talk about the second one first, number 29. That is when you approach the front of the building, right now, they're the large plywood boxed in. It's like the two corners, I think, or
Right.
two main corners. Well, they'll get covered with panels, but what was spec'd was a thinner material that was anodized or whatever. And ECI had some real concerns with that, and then the architect did as well. That they could put that on and be fine, but their concern was getting that direct sun, that over time, it'll probably start to kind of ripple,
Yeah,
get wavy. So what they're proposing is a different material that actually has some type of backing on it so that it will all remain smooth looking and so forth. So, I mean, Art and I were down
It
after one of the
made sense.
construction meetings, and it makes sense because, it's like if you ever looked at your saw fitting and it's a little out of,
your aluminum side.
yeah. And this would be, I mean, it's like right at the main entrance. So we did request 29, and then we also requested those changes there for the shower and so forth for 30. So with that said, I would recommend that there be a motion to deny change order number 28 and that you consider approving change order 29 and 30.
Are we doing that at the same time?
We can do one motion, I think.
Yeah,
Then I make a motion to deny change order 28 and approve change orders 29 and 30.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other comments? We'll vote.
Aye.
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 28 is denied. 5 votes to the affirmative, 29 and 30 are approved. We have 5 applications for payment, so I assume ECI was a month behind or something. They're doing 2.
look, I don't know if they were a month behind because they had one last month.
Yeah, that's what I
Let me see
thought.
what the dates are on those. But I can tell you, all of them have been reviewed by the architect and they all have been signed off on. Except for 14 and 15. They still need to be reviewed, so I would make those conditioned upon
Architect approval.
Yes, and that's for ECI.
So you said 14 and
So 14 and 15,
14, 15
I would-
pending approval.
I would, yeah, conditionally approve them based upon approval from Murphy Dittenhafer. Then when you get into Low Bar Man and North Bay, those have all been reviewed and approved, so those recommend that those just be approved straight as presented. You may want to do that as two separate motions.
All right, in that case. Make a motion to conditionally approve. Application numbers 14 and 15 pending architecture. Approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on ECI's payments for applications 14 and 15, conditionally approve them, dependent upon the architect's approval. Questions? We'll vote.
Aye.
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 5 votes to the affirmative, so that's accomplished. We have 3 more left. You want to make another motion?
I'd love to,
All right.
make a motion to approve. Numbers on here are a little confusing, but, low bar for the, 60,445. Man plumbing. For, 11,178, Todd, am I reading that right?
Correct.
You got it.
Mhm.
And then, North Bay Mechanical. For the,
3,000.
amount of $3,035.70.
Second.
Now we have a motion and a second to approve the Low Bar Man and North Bay Mechanical applications for payment. Questions? We'll vote.
Aye.
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 5 votes to the affirmative, so Low Bar Man and North Bay Mechanical applications are approved.
Just for clarification on the application numbers. Each one of those contractors starts at application
Right.
1, so that's why it may look
Well,
a
the-
little
The
confusing.
low bar was like 312 or something. and I knew that couldn't be right. That's why I was confused. The other one looked like it was 15, 16 for North Bay. But it was the invoice number, I guess, is what I was looking at
Gotcha,
for low
okay,
bar. I
okay,
was like, it was 412. I'm like,
gotcha,
yeah, that's not right.
Right, any other? That's it for that. So we're to old business. So I guess a couple informational things from Todd.
Yeah, next one is just a copy, one of the components of the franchise renewal agreement with Comcast and the consortium that we're part of with other York County municipalities. One of those components is that they do a franchise fee audit, which we did about 10, 11 years ago. And they picked up quite a bit that time. This time we had an underpayment of $385. So I'll go ahead and ask them to pursue that for us. So I don't think we need to take any action on it, but just want to give you a copy of what they found in their audit. And I have not yet seen a draft of the actual franchise renewal agreement yet. So they're working on that.
Okay. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Mile markers.
Just for the board's information, I did reach out to the contact that I had up at the York office, and he gave me a contact person name in Harrisburg. But before I got a chance to even reach out to them, about a week or so later, he texted me back and said that they got all the material in to put them up, and they were going to try to do it as soon as possible. So I don't know. I asked Brad to keep an eye on it because I don't get on 83 very often.
I don't need it.
Yeah, so
These would be both on both north and south.
correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So it's supposed to be happening soon.
Every 10th of a mile, right?
That's my understanding.
Now they're gonna go from Maryland line. How far?
I think
We
they
generally
stop
only
right
care
below
about
Route
Glenrock.
30.
But they're going the whole way up, a whole way to
That's
York.
my understanding.
No, it was already in the works probably.
Yeah, it was already in the works. That's what Brad had mentioned, that they were going to do all of 83 in York County. And they did north down to 30
Okay,
and
Okay.
stopped
gotcha.
about 2 years ago.
They ran out of
Must have been the
funding.
I don't
pandemic. All
know. But
right,
anyway, it's supposed to be getting done now. So That's some good news.
What can you tell us about the stop bar?
For the stop bar relocation, I can tell you that the that the radar indicators that we have to pick up traffic and the matrix for the turning lanes, what we have there would work. We would be looking as 1, 2, 3 to replace the oh gosh, I can't think of it. Thermoplastic, the stop bars. They'd have to mill out the old ones and place new ones. It's about $8,500. Engineering to renew a permit and have the plan amended to submit the application is about $2,000.
Okay.
Now I talked to Milt, he does all of our traffic signals, and I don't know if anyone knows him, Salzberger. Anyway, he's been around a long time, and he knows PennDOT, works with them and does a lot. And he said, I'll tell you right now, he said, I highly doubt that they would approve it, given that the fire trucks don't go through there frequently.
Okay.
He said if it was a daily thing,
Yeah.
they might consider it. But he said, for them to go through all of that change and push those lanes back 40 feet for fire trucks, especially when most people do their best to get out of the way. He said, I don't see them approving it. So
Would they have to approve it even if we do it? Or is that for them to do?
Well, it's a state
no,
road.
it's a state road. So we have a permit with a signal plan. So if we want to change any stop bars, turn lanes, whatever, that all has to be approved by PennDOT.
We'd still have to pay.
But
for
we
it.
have to do the work, pay
So
for
it's
it.
gonna cost us $10,000 if they approve it, but we don't think they're gonna approve it.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what was shared with me.
Does the engineering have to be done just to try to get approval?
So we'd spend about 2,000 just to even ask for approval.
Why shouldn't we do that?
In that case, can we just table this indefinitely?
That would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I see no sense moving forward. If
Fair enough.
if the fire company wants to try to get the approval and
Pay for the plan,
we'll reduce,
submit it to the state.
we'll reduce our donation next year.
I mean, I could understand if those turn lanes got really stacked with 10, 12, 14, 15 cars or
That
something.
could be a
but
problem,
but
it doesn't
it doesn't.
normally, no.
So how would you respond back to the fire? Or just that we think it's highly unlikely. it will
Yeah,
get
I'll explain
approved?
to them about, because, PennDOT, they can ask Jason Denia how they scrutinize
Yeah.
plans. It's just.
So
they-
the thing we just tell them is we see no sense spending money even for
It's
the.
highly
engineer.
unlikely it'll be
Yeah,
approved. so,
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're all the same consensus.
I'm fine with that.
Okay,
Because I wasn't for it to start with.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, again, that the fire department had a chance to look. at the
That's my
plans,
reasoning too. I mean,
And they never look at. they
and
never
it's
look
like,
at the
just like
plan.
Todd said, how often are they actually coming out there and doing turning?
Christmas Eve, we had a fire truck come by with Santa.
Well, see, they must have left them out for that.
Okay, I think, is there any other old business? If not, we move to new business. You have a deed transfer, Todd?
Yeah, this is not a verification. The development rights for this particular property have already been verified. What this is for, this party, the Pottagers are planning to sell the property. They have 4 development rights. Of course, one has to stay with the main parcel. They want to take possession of the 3 development rights, which they could eventually then sell to a receiving district down the road. So this is part of that process
Right.
and a clean, clear tracking record where those development rights went. And also makes it clear, I don't think everyone was on the board here when we got sucked into a lawsuit over this very same issue. There was a property that was sold on Line Road, we did the development right verification, just verifying the number that was there. The property was sold, but there was nothing in the deed that stated the development rights went with the seller. And there was no reference to anything. So the way it came about, they were going to sell their development rights to Jason Denaya for Campbell Road. And when they came in here to do this transfer from that owner to Jason Denaya, we're like, well, according to our records, they belong to the current owner, not to you, Mrs. Seller. So she ended up filing suit against the new owners and the township and whatever, and ended up being settled out of court with our insurance company and the seller's insurance company. But this makes it very clear because it's recorded to Recorder of Deeds office. So, and this is not uncommon. We've done this.
Oh, I did it.
Yeah. So you're just
You wanna make a
recognizing that
motion?
they're being transferred off and we'll have an official record recorded to Recorder of Deeds office.
Make a motion to approve the deed transfer development rights.
Second.
Thank
Have a
you.
Motion and second to approve the deed transfer. No questions, we'll vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
5 votes to the affirmative, the transfer is approved. And permit manager subscription, Todd.
Yes, this is one that we had put in the budget. I don't know if you remember back in budget time where we talked about where we will be able to with this software, it'll all be tied into the uniform parcel ID, UPI number. And so all of septic permitting, tracking for the pumping of the on-lot systems, all zoning permits, building permits, or whatever, they'll all be done through this software program. I'll also be able to do my codes enforcement through this as well. So I won't have to be playing with Excel worksheets any longer. It'll certainly make things, I believe, far more efficient with my time. Because I spent a lot of time on that Excel spreadsheet, because you're adding lines and merging cells and copying and pasting the wrong thing, And so anyway, this is in the budget. The board did approve it. What it is, year one, which would be 2023, we would pay upfront annual subscription of $8,000, which this includes all the setup and everything and integrating files that we already have. Year two, which would be 24, would be the other 8,000, the other 50% plus the annual maintenance and update subscription of $1,850 for a total of $9,850. And then year three and every subsequent year is $1,850 for the maintenance and includes updates and support.
What did we budget?
We budget the 8,000. Yeah,
This is, you and I looked at several companies at the last PSAT
yeah,
meeting that did this
Yeah.
type thing.
Yeah.
This does not, just as I recall, it doesn't automate the process that a resident could go online and get their
No.
permit. It doesn't do that.
no, this is all internal
Right.
for record keeping, yeah, and processing permits. And the other thing that'll be nice with this, we try to do with Excel spreadsheets and whatever, you process things because we send them up to Keith's office for review and they're due back a certain time and so forth. We'll be able to input all that data and just hit a button to print a report
So
to see where everything
So
is.
it's less work.
Yeah,
for us.
and not only less work, it's gonna be,
Tracks it.
it's gonna be a clear tracking system for us to be able to pull up dates and, key dates that things need to be back. And so
And
I
did
think
see-
it'll improve efficiency for getting permits done quicker. And
I did see a number, Dover Township, East Manchester, so a
Yeah.
number, Dallastown.
And this is a company, CS Davidson bought out this company, and it used to be a a one-man band that developed this program. And he was around for a long time. And he wrote custom programs and so forth. And then he got into developing where he just sold this proprietary program. And then CS Davidson ended up buying them out. So you can see they have a pretty long client list, and it seems to be growing. And I think they're even over into New Jersey and Delaware. So I would just need authorization to move forward with getting that started.
Questions or a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the proposal for permit manager subscription dated August 17th, 2022.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Questions before we vote? We shall vote.
Aye.
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 5 votes to the affirmative, so we're approved to move ahead with that. And you have correspondence. The only thing I don't see in the packet is this one on the state.
Yeah, I will forward that to you. I didn't get a chance to pull it to get today, but I can just give you a brief summary. I had a visit from a state trooper who was brought on board here at the York Barracks. And his primary role is to, lack of a better term, to be a liaison between municipalities and the state police. You know, if we have an issue with speeding or anything else like that, we would reach out to this individual person instead of trying to call up to the barracks to find out who to talk to and see where things stand. So this will be a person that'll work throughout York County with all the municipalities that use state police. And he'll be a key contact person to help us with any issues that we have.
Sounds good.
If it's speeding or what have you, so.
Be the one that gets cars towed and stuff like that?
Yes, yep.
Wonderful.
Good. That's it. That's
So they had a little brochure and I forgot to copy that, so I'll get it emailed to you.
questions on any other communication.
We had an invitation to the farm show. Is anybody going up to that? Somewhere in my literature. I got-
Yeah, it's in your
Yeah,
correspondence.
January 11th, I'm looking at it.
You have a letter in there, yeah.
A officials day brunch.
Yeah, I guess that's not too far off, is it?
Gosh, I know.
Awful
Next
long
week?
drive to go for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
almost.
Are you gonna go represent us, Bob?
If you want me to, I'm not anxious about it, I tell you that.
I don't think we need to be represented, but
I
if
used
you
to
wanted
my
to.
Dave Holloway show, oh, he's not gonna show up there.
If you want to go, you're more than welcome to go and
No,
say you
I'm not
represent.
getting that crowd.
Still nobody virtual, right?
No,
Nope. So obviously no public comment. I do think we have enough time. I don't know if can we let Wendy go if we adjourn and go into executive session regarding the real estate?
Do we have to come back? We have
Yeah.
to come back, yeah.
yeah, that's right. Well, hey, Wendy, we're not gonna make you hang around for this. The board's gonna adjourn into executive session to talk about the sale of the building. And then we'll
Okay.
reconvene and they may take action, but I'll make notes on that. So you don't need to hang around for that. So,
All right then.
All
Good
right.
night, everybody.
yep, have a good night.
See you.
See you, bye.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
we will, be live. Yep. Okay, so we are coming out of executive session and going back to our monthly meeting.
Art, if I could just for clarification
Yep.
for the public that may view this, we went into executive session at 8:39 and we are coming out of it at 8:52.
Okay, thank you. It's good. So the topic we're going to put on the table is then what we want to do moving forward regarding this real estate and what we might do to try to sell it. So.
Want a motion?
From
So
that-
we'll need a motion.
Yep, yeah.
The motion would be to go with Rock Real Estate. And I'm gonna throw out a number because that's what I was hearing, but if it's different, that's what your motion could be. but I was
To the
hearing a
one-year
listing
contract.
price of 875,000.
Correct.
And adding, in addition to Shipley being an exclusion, also to include Jason Denia in the agreement as an exclusion at 3%.
And
Yeah.
we'll have Tim Buck
Review the contract before we
review the
would sign it.
contract and move forward as quick as we can.
Yes.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All right, so a motion that on the
I hate
floor
these
and second
chairs.
is that we would move forward with Rock as a listing agent for this facility. That we would have them listed at 875,000, and that we would add Jason Denia to the exclusion along with Shipley at the 3% commission. And we'll have Tim Buck review the agreement.
That sounds exactly like my motion. Thank you for clarifying.
All right. Questions before we vote? Vote.
Aye.
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 5 votes to the affirmative. We will move forward with Rock to try to sell the real estate. Any other business? We have a motion.
I move for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Covered a lot.